I'm surprised Chase isn't watching Mizzou.
Trust me, Chase is done with. And we're. I think
I wish I
everyone's
was
at that
this
point.
point.
We're all
seems
there
like
though.
the vibes are phenomenal.
But everyone is like, Alec, you're telling me you're not sick of being around the Vikings right now in the most loving way? Like it's
I
like
gotta
a marriage.
tell you,
Like
I
you're
have
like,
to tell you, this locker room, the group of guys, it is as good as it gets.
welcome into Scoop City. I'm the athletic senior NFL insider Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, played 14 years in the NFL.
It is the last show of 2024. We have done it. We've got
Show
a
52.
full half a year.
52 shows this year. And we started, what was our first show? August?
July.
July? Was it July?
Yeah. July feels like a long time ago
Time
now.
flies when you're having fun.
I don't know if this is fun. All I know, this has been a long season. And watching the games of the last few days with football on every single day over the weekend and just watching that Bengals-Broncos game reignited me. And it was just like a shot in the arm of like, we got playoffs, baby. Like, here
Adrenaline,
we
baby.
go. You know,
Yes.
like we're wrapping up the crappy football. We still got one more week of this, but the good teams are peaking. They're rolling, and it was just fun, really, to just watch
Yeah.
that game. Unfortunately, 24 hours later, we had to witness things like the Dolphins and the Browns game.
This is the best time of the year, though. Playoff football, upcoming, like college football playoff, all that stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, all that. And then, we're seeing awesome rookie quarterback play. That is obviously one of the biggest storylines that we're going to get into and discuss. MVP race topics, why not?
You're a voter.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I'm a voter. Who am I picking? I'll tell
get a
you.
vote.
Just maybe not.
You're going to tell us you're not allowed to.
I don't know about that. I think I'm allowed to. I got to look into it. We've got Alec Lewis, our Vikings beat reporter. He is one of the best reporters on the ground. He is around the Vikings all the time, in the locker room, on the field. He's friends with all of them, and he's got some great stories about what's going on there and essentially how this team has maybe been slightly under the radar, yet internally they've kind of stuck with the same theme and the same thing all year long, which is Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold really finding this perfect marriage. So we'll get into that. And then Mike Vrabel's time with the Cleveland Browns over.
What?
A week early. Must mean somebody wants to get ahead and start interviewing. So we'll talk all about that. So let's get right to it. Here is what I'm hearing around the league. So sometimes when we talk about certain teams, you catch yourself almost being in shock that you're saying it out loud. And that's the way I feel sometimes when I talk about the Commanders. And maybe that's just because it's been so many years of dysfunction and bad decision-making and bad coaching and bad ownership. And yet here we are in the first year of the Josh Harris era, a new owner with a first-time head coach and GM together, at least, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, and of course their rookie sensation, Jayden Daniels, together. And here they are, able to come up with a way to get into the playoffs. I mean, if I could just clap, which I don't want to do in your ear, I would do it because thank you. You just want to acknowledge some of the greatness here that is happening in Washington and the fact that they've been dramatically different from what we've seen in seasons past.
Oh, it's not even close. Look, you can't really fire owners until you can. And I'll start with this Washington team. Like, I was a part of this team in 2009. I signed as a free agent, and Jim Zorn was the head coach there at this point. And look, the last time they made the playoffs was 2020, and it was just time for a change. And it's like we said last year, at least I said last year, one person can change the future of your franchise. And I was talking about Houston. I was talking about C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. Well, you get this year. Dan Quinn, total leadership vibe. Adam Peters comes over. And then obviously the ownership. But then the star of the show, right, it's Jayden Daniels. Without Jayden there, I don't know if they're the team that they are. Their defense hasn't been great this year, even though Dan Quinn's a defensive coach. Him and Cliff Kingsbury are the story of the year, in my opinion.
And here's what they did too, right? They brought in veteran free agents that they
Heavy
were familiar
free
with.
agents.
They were the guys they knew, right? And I remember when the signings started to go down, like a Bobby Wagner, like a Zach Ertz. I was
Austin Eckler
questioning a little. Austin, yeah. I was like, what are they doing? Like, I don't know how much gas these guys got in the tank.
They were all old free agents.
They were all right. And I was like, well, and what they were doing was actually building, right? That is exact. Dan Quinn's like, I know these guys. Cliff Kingsbury, I know these guys. We can make something. We can use these pieces to A, teach, but B, begin something special. And that's where I've been really impressed with Washington. When maybe in the offseason we weren't too sure, even going back to the hiring of Dan Quinn, that was considered just like a participation trophy in a way, where it was like, well, we know he, right? It was like he was not the guy on their map that, at the time it was the Ben Johnson story, and then perhaps Anthony Weaver. You heard some great things coming out. So, and then Dan Quinn comes in, and I don't think people really thought it was going to be a great hire. And look what he has done.
Well, and I think all those guys that you said, right? Like I played with Zach Ertz, know Zach Ertz personally. Bobby Wagner, everyone knows what he does. Austin Eckler, played with him personally. Dan Quinn, know him well. All of those core guys that they brought in were great people. They had great relationships with Dan Quinn. They are great leaders. Now, they might have been a couple older, but they set the culture of that locker room. They set the culture of this is how it's supposed to be done. And look at Zach Ertz, 2 touchdowns, should have had a third in his game. He gets paid $750,000 for all these incentives that he has. And he'll tell you, he'll be the first one, though. It starts with a rookie, even though they went free agency and got all this stuff. It's all about how this rookie quarterback's playing.
See, you say it so quickly, but I think that's powerful, that it has everything to do with the rookie quarterback, because what he's able to do in this locker room and on the field is he allows everyone to know, even if we make mistakes, even if it's not perfect, I'm going to find us a way to win. I'm going to find a way to make up for that. And they have that belief in him. And I think that's been really helpful in them having success this season. On top of the fact that he's taken care of 2 things really well, himself and the ball. Right? He's got 5 fumbles this year. That's it. For a guy that's throwing and carrying the ball as much as he is, and comparably, right? You look around the league at other mobile quarterbacks that have that type of athleticism. Lamar's got 10. Jalen's got 9. Your boy Justin Fields, 6. He's not even playing that much, right? So I think that's a little bit of an under the radar stat about Jayden right now, is really just how well he is taking care of the football and his own body.
No doubt. And to see that from a rookie quarterback, it's just something that we don't see a lot. And like one of these things, and I just want to make it clear, like he's having a historic rookie season. Like nobody in the history of a game as a rookie quarterback has thrown for 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns, and won 10 games or more in a season. The biggest stat for rookies, I don't even care about turnovers. It's can you win football games? Not even CJ Stroud did this, what he's doing last year. He's going to be the runaway for offensive rookie of the year. I know we love Bo Nix on the show. I know I'm wearing Denver Broncos orange, but when you win 11 games and you play the way you're playing like this, he's doing it with, like, even last game, right? Scary Terry, he didn't even have a lot of catches. He's doing it with guys that are just out there. And what's interesting to me about his game, and I covered him back quite a bit in LSU, and I know, Chicago Bears, and they drafted Caleb Williams. Jury's still out on Caleb. I think he's going to be fine. But when I saw Jayden Daniels play in college, I saw a pocket passer. And that's crazy to think about because he's run for a ton of yards. But he went through his progressions, meaning he went to number 1, and no, he's not open, number 2, number 3. He swept the board in progressions better than anyone I've seen in a long time. He's not a runner first, he's a thrower first, but what makes him dangerous is him executing the plays outside of the pocket. The escapability, we wanted to praise and we wanted to laud Caleb Williams over that. I think right now that Jayden Daniels is the best in the game at it.
Yeah, and I think Jayden Daniels is the next Lamar Jackson. Like we've seen incredible talent for the last 7 years out of Lamar. I think Jayden's the closest to it that we're going to see in terms of just wowing us and being able to be as mobile as he is, as fast as he is. He leads the team in rushing. And then, like you said, has done a really good job in the passing game. And obviously credit to Cliff Kingsbury, who's really helped bring so much of what Jayden has been comfortable at LSU bringing into Washington.
Well, and so much for Cliff's Cliff, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Cliff's offense, Cliff's this. And I'm like, dude, no, just let the guy go out and play. And he's played exceptionally well.
We did that on the show.
I know. So much for that. And I said there was no Cliff's Cliff.
I think I did. Sorry, everybody. Real quick before we move on.
You did not say that. You didn't say that.
I understood the argument. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, it is a fascinating argument.
But with that in mind, so we saw the Commanders beat the Falcons. Michael Penix, real quick, do you think he's proven the guy in Atlanta these last 2 games.
I think, I don't know, like, look, it had 2 games. The first game, they got out to a big lead, 2 pick sixes against the Giants. He didn't really do much in the second half. Now, this game, thought he started a little slower, but some of the throws he was making, now I feel like they need to figure out that Zach Robinson offense. They need to figure out what Michael Penix does best, because they're still really running Kirk's offense, which that'll come with an offseason of work, right? But when you go down and you throw a touchdown on 4th and goal to get to overtime, like, to me, that's what you want to see in the biggest moments of the game. Can you make plays down the stretch? I was really impressed with the arm strength. I was really impressed. Like, he's 24 years old, right? It's not a developmental project. He's played a ton of football. So the more he plays, the more experience he gets. What's crazy is that if they win and the Bucs lose, like, they're in the playoffs next week. So it's going to be an intriguing storyline for the NFC South.
God, you know what I was thinking about the other day? It's so random. Remember how good Kirk Cousins was in the red zone? Remember that?
Yeah.
What the heck happened?
Life comes at you fast.
That it does. By the way, when I was looking up some of those stats on Jayden's fumbles this season, Kirk leads the way with 12. I was like, what happened, man?
That was one of the reasons.
Yeah. So, all right. The draft order is fascinating right now. We still got a week of games left before this thing is set. But right now, where it stands, we got the Patriots, the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Jags. The Giants obviously had an opportunity, if they lost that game, to get the number 1 pick.
M-I-Z, baby. Drew Lock.
Oh,
5
I was
touchdowns.
thinking about you the whole game. I'm like, this is Chase's dude. Look, congrats to him. What a great game. It definitely makes you question, why didn't they start him over Tommy DeVito? Like, that was my thought.
To tank, Diana. I told you this.
Look, if they were trying to tank, then what the heck was that yesterday? Because they just
so true.
Lost all their
Colts
opportunity and
imploded,
chances.
man.
So the Colts are a story for another day. Next week, when we do sort of the end of the season wrap, now that the Colts will not be going to the postseason, I do want to dive into them, because that was bad. I have some questions
So
for the
McAfee.
direction.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he went hard.
Saw that.
So the question I had for you, just because you've been around the league so much, has anyone ever coached their way into or out of a job in the final stretch? Like, do you think that do you think right now Brian Daboll can save his job if it was in trouble, right? I reported over the weekend that they haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would be shocked if Brian Daboll was fired, but no decision has been made. Do you think he could save his job with another win?
Look, I am probably, you might call me a conspiracy theorist. I really think that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll decided when they benched Daniel Jones, let's tank. And they had
You've been so consistent with this.
I know, because this is how I think it went down. I think they met with Murrah, and I think they said, hey, we're a package deal, even though you're saying I know nothing, by the way. Okay, this is not news.
I'm going to get a call from the Giants.
This is not news, but this is how I feel it went down. And usually, you know about these things. I'm pretty spot on. I think they decided to not tank, but let's go a different direction. We don't want to pay the injury guarantee. Let's play Tommy DeVito because Drew Lock's too good, because he's the backup. We paid him $5 million. We don't want to pay the incentives. Okay, Tommy DeVito gets hurt. Got it. Okay, everything's going as planned. Everything's going as planned. New York Giants, hey, no, don't win. Drew Lock's public enemy number 1 in New York. What are we doing? It's okay, though, because I feel like this whole time they've had their job and they've had a plan to go out and draft either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, because I think firing Brian Daboll is an absolute travesty. He gets a lot of the skins on the wall for everything that went wrong. But if Brian Daboll goes, and I know you said they're not a package deal, Joe Shane should be on the way out too, because he decided not to pay Saquon Barkley. You think they could have used Saquon Barkley this year with Daniel Jones? Like, I just think it's one of those things where it was an understanding. So no, I'm going to go ahead and say, and I know nothing. This is all just me thinking that I know stuff, which usually, sometimes it works out. That's what I feel about the Giants.
I had a friend say to me the other day that he doesn't think the problem that Joe Shane had was letting Saquon Barkley walk. It was the fact that he allowed cameras to tape the whole situation. I think the mistake was both, but
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're one of my favorite people to discuss game management with, because you're very good at it, and you've been taught by a lot of the greats that do it.
Yeah.
And so when you watch the mistakes that were made in these games over the weekend, and it seems that games are getting closer and closer every week, and the separators between the really good teams and the okay ones are these decisions being made by a head
End
coach.
of game scenarios, no
Right?
doubt.
It's unbelievable how bad some of this clock management has been. It's unbelievable how bad some of the timeout situations have been made and the decisions. So I wanted to really quickly just get your thoughts on Cincinnati. Because that one, I was going to actually text you during the game, but I knew you were tweeting and watching everything intently. So what was he thinking? What do you think? Because here's the thing, just for those that may not know this.
Yeah, tell the viewers what happened.
Well, almost every team has a situational person, a game manager employed. And usually that person has communication with the head coach throughout the game to help make these decisions and to do the hard thing, which is remain focused on the game situation so the head coach can worry about what's
Everything
actually
else.
in front of them, right? So that game manager is managing and is paying attention to all the things that you need to pay attention in terms of making the right decisions on whatever down it is, whatever the momentum is, where the momentum is going, the timeouts, time on the clock, whatever it is. Yet, come to find out, just like everything in life, some people are really good at their jobs, some people aren't. And that's what really, it's been driving me nuts that so many people are in these powerful positions with so much control over the decisions, and yet they're making such poor ones, which is why I'm pleading with owners around the NFL that are interviewing head coaches. Ask every coach, what is your game management plan, and is it going to be a successful one?
So you literally, you should have done this block by yourself, because that's exactly exactly what I was going to say. So not all head coaches really, most head coaches, let me just get this straight. Most head coaches and teams have this game manager scenario. It's a really smart analytical nerd that sits up in the box, and your only job is end of half, end of game scenarios, when to use your timeouts, how much clock can run off. If you don't use timeouts, like that Raheem Morris one, the Falcons didn't call a timeout. They rolled off 12 seconds.
Twice.
Just ridiculous. Yeah. However, and I know this, and this is inside information, most head coaches want to be the ones calling those shots. They don't want somebody in their ear. So even if you have somebody in your ear, usually you're probably thinking, some head coaches are thinking, hey, this is still the right decision on how to do these things. And it happened with us in this whole game manager thing is pretty new. Like, it's not something that's always been here since I was in the league. Around 2015 is the first time that I had even heard of somebody and I was with the Chiefs. I was with Andy Reid. It was his third year there. It was the first time I really heard of someone in that job. And we go on the road to who did we play? That was a long time ago. We played at New England in the divisional round. We had just shut out the Houston Texans in the wild card round, and we, I think, ended up losing by a score or maybe 8 points. And it really wasn't a close game. We had to go in 2-minute mode in the fourth quarter. We sort of made it a game, but we wasted a lot of time in the 2-minute drive, in a 5-minute drive, because a lot of people don't understand in the NFL, in the fourth quarter, under 5 minutes, if you go out of bounds, the clock stops. But if it's before 5 minutes, if it's like 5 minutes and 30 seconds, if you go out of bounds, the clock will run. People are like, wait, what? Mind blown. And even some players on our team didn't know that. So now, and they still use this today, the Chiefs have two different ways to get into 2 minute. One is if it's 15 minutes in the fourth quarter to 5:01 in the fourth quarter, there's a mode if you're down like 2 scores that you need to go. You get up, like yards is more valuable than time. But if the second it hits like 4:59 where the clock stops, let's get out of bounds because time is more valuable than yards. So there's really two, a lot of people don't know this, two ways for the Kansas City Chiefs to run their 2-minute offense, depending on how much they're down. A lot more teams are going that way, but I just found it fascinating now that all these guys and all these teams have these, yet still make these big errors.
They do. And look, I'm not taking away. These are high pressure moments. There is so much going on. Live bullets are flying, but which is why not only are the best coaches great at game management, but they're such great teachers because the players need to know it. Like, look in Cincinnati, our guy. If Chase just knew, about, I think if he understood the rule situation better in terms of
Yeah.
injury timeout, maybe they're not in that situation. You know, and I think that's where it's painful because that can be addressed. That's fixable. I got to tell you, I disagree with Sean Payton's call to not go for 2.
That's interesting.
We had the momentum. Really? Joe Burrow was throwing on you all day. Like, I immediately hated that call. And I loved Bo Nix's just, let's go. 2. I was like, let's go.
And a lot of people don't understand is, you know, they had talked about the situation. I guarantee you this is how Sean Payton works. I've been on the sideline with him for 5 years. They've talked about and they've told the quarterback, Bo Nix, if we score, we're going for 2. Like, let's go for the win. This game's going crazy. Let's just get it out there. So in my mind, here's what happened. They score. Sean Payton's like, all right, we're going for 2. We're going for 2. So he's holding the 2 up. It's Sean Payton calling his ear. Sean Payton then, I think there was a penalty or there's something that like changed the momentum where they said they thought about it, didn't go for it. I actually didn't mind it. I was okay with his explanation because, look, this is a final playoff spot. This is a huge game. And at that point in the game, when they had come back from a deficit and they weren't really doing anything in the first half, they sort of did have the momentum. And then, you know, you get Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow just going down in OT. So I actually wasn't mad about it. I understood his way of thinking. It's real ballsy to try and go for the win. I mean, on the road, like with a rookie
quarterback. Absolutely. I look, I think, especially when Drew Brees was his quarterback, Sean was fantastic at game management. You know, we should just do a show because I'm so passionate about this, and just rank the coaches, right? Yeah. But I put Sean up there. But he also has guts, right? And I thought maybe this would be the situation. But look, I doubt he has any regrets. He doesn't operate that way. But either way, this isn't going to get any better this year. There's no way because we've seen so many bad decisions being made. And
playoff time too, the most important time.
Oh, absolutely.
Because overtime rules change then too. You can't tie. Like that's what a lot of people understand. Obviously you can't tie, but the overtime rules change, the clock rule, all stuff. Crazy.
You think Zach Taylor goes to bed in the name of the Father, the Son, Joe Burrow? Amen. Greatest player in the world. What do you say? You said the greatest player in the world, right? I may agree with him. Speaking of greatest players, right? MVP race. Real quick, we talk about it every show. We said
do talk about it every show.
Well, we do because we want to finish out the regular season.
It's huge.
Because it's close. It's so neck and neck. Let me tell you, Chase, we've got people in Baltimore listening to Scoop City. We've got people in Buffalo listening to Scoop City, and they have very strong opinions about how we've been discussing this. And
everyone does. Look at my social media. My God.
So.
You're the voter. You tell me.
I am the voter.
And by the way, there's only 50 votes and you get a vote. Can I get a vote? Like, that's cool.
I'll see
what
I
a
can
big
do.
responsibility.
Thank you. Yes, it is. In fact, after next week, I'll be locked in my office, just kind of going through everything because you get like stat packs because you have to remind yourself of yourself. You have to familiarize yourself really with what.
Let me interview you on it. Because the whole thing because man, we cover it every day on our Fox show, right? Facility.
Yeah.
And Acho is a voter as well. So I'm lucky that I get both voters right here. Do you factor in head to head if there's 2 losses difference between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson? Because that's everyone that keeps saying, well, Lamar Jackson beat him head-to-head. Lamar Jackson benched him. He didn't play in the fourth quarter. It was a blowout. That was week 4. They're way different players.
I do not. So I'm probably a little bit more your style. I don't go with the head-to-head. At least I haven't in the past.
Do you do you go stats or do you do most valuable for your team?
I do stats. I don't know if that's the right way, but that's just what I've done in the past. And
so
again,
then you're leaning.
It was easier last year, right?
No, it wasn't because Lamar had no stats. Dak had all the stats. Lamar was like the worst stat year ever in an MVP.
Oh yeah,
and remember it was Dak and Brock Purdy. You voted for Lamar, so you don't go off stats. You go off most valuable in record and win.
I don't remember why I chose that last year, but I consistently, I can tell you, just with all the other positions, I've always stuck with stats because I spend hours looking at it because I want to make sure I'm being fair to the production.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's a fascinating decision.
It is hard, and especially this year.
Where do you
Josh
lean
Allen
this way?
is-
Yep, I was just going to say, where do you lean this way this year?
I'm
Explain
leaning
yourself.
I am leaning to Lamar.
What?
I don't think that Josh
I mean, look, there's
Allen
no-
did
I
anything
say
this
that.
weekend that made me go, okay, he stole this thing.
And I said that reaction was not as like a slight in the slightest
how could you
for
not? No,
Lamar.
I know.
No, like that is because believe me, I got Lamar haters in my think I
Josh,
hate
you're my
Lamar.
guy.
I don't.
Hate me.
That's fascinating to me because he if you're a stat person, which I would say a lot of people are in the MVP, Lamar has 2 more losses. Lamar only has 3 more touchdowns because Josh got to 41. Josh had 3 touchdowns. I thought, and I said on my show, if Josh Allen has 3 more touchdowns, I think he locks it up because don't you think that voter fatigue plays into this? Like, don't you think there's a thing like, man, Lamar's won 2. It's Josh Allen's time, or you just strictly year to year? I don't care how many MVPs he has, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's hard.
You said, yeah.
I said, yeah, because I hate even making a decision right now.
It.
You are. I need another week. You can put me.
That's fair. And like, there's not going to
be
co MVPs, right? No. It's happened before.
It has, but I don't think it's going to happen this year because I know too many people that are pretty.
And you're all. It's just a 2-man race. No Saquon, no Joe Burrow.
No, I think Saquon for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
I'm thinking that.
Yep. What if Saquon breaks the record? Hold on. No, this is not. This is
okay.
Hold on.
All right. I want to pause on the Saquon conversation because I am fascinated with what you think. What should the Eagles do here? You got a personal record on the line here, something historic, but you also have to rest Saquon Barkley if you want to see him be phenomenal in the playoffs, in my opinion. So let's have that conversation. We'll touch on the Vrabel stuff. But first, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Vikings with Alec Lewis, and then we'll get into the rest later. Back here at Scoop City, Alec Lewis, our Minnesota Vikings beat reporter, joins the show now after spending what has really been a thrilling season with this red-hot Minnesota Vikings team. And all anyone wants to really know is, what's it like being around this team right now?
The reality is like, to answer your question, yes, like in this job, at least for me, this is how I've always gone about it. It's like, like you just want to be around good people and you want to tell really good stories, and to see this team go from like the preseason expectations to where it is now, and then to watch all of the different personalities that I'll get into that I think make up the chemistry of what has made this thing as special as it is. Like it's a blast. And I said this earlier to somebody. It's like, you're supposed to be objective in this job, and you don't want to be a homer and all that stuff. And that's the reality. That's like the journalism school, Missouri stuff that I learned. And it's still very much, I have to look at this thing with a very clear-eyed view. But when you see people like Sam Darnold go through what he's been through over the course of his career and then have the season that he's having alongside a team and a fan base that has celebrated him, how special is that? And I would be crazy not to enjoy covering that.
I know I saw the reaction in the locker room when Darnold came in. They gave him the old basketball, like water on his head. Amazing. Everyone was going crazy. What was the vibe like in the locker room? And what did Darnold think of it all, man?
Well, he's not like the most loquacious guy, which is a word that means really talkative.
Strong word.
Yeah. It's what you got to do. Sam Darnold's press conferences are never the most electric press conferences that you're going to find across the league. He rarely says anything. He is one of the best cliche artists I've ever come in contact with. But you could tell, and you've been able to tell multiple times this season how much the team and, like I said, this fan base rallying around him has meant to him. Because, again, he is a guy who, at USC, like this vibe is what he had. He had a fan base that absolutely loved him. He lifted that program to heights that I think everyone that roots for that team, expected. And then really, to be honest, like he hasn't had that until he got here. And so to have, it was the most like youth baseball all-star league response of all time. He's interviewing with Tom Brady. He comes back in the locker room. They scheme to all grab water bottles, and then they're lift him on his shoulders. He says he didn't know what to do with his hands, like Ricky Bobby. It was incredible. It was incredible.
I had a GM around the league share with me, man, this Vikings team, they were so under the radar. And I'm like, what? Chase and I talk about the Vikings every week. Like, we've been on them for the whole season. But I realize that's actually probably not the truth. Do you feel like they're a team that has been kind of flying under the radar all season?
Well, I think I don't think flying under the radar is so true. I think for most of this season, people have viewed them as just like this great story, this wholesome, cute, like enjoyable team that has a bunch of great, they've had great moments. They win close games. They're incredibly well coached. Like, I don't think that flew under the radar really from anybody. And you've been on that, Dianna, as early as anyone, just in terms of the job that Kevin O'Connell has done. And then paired with Brian Flores, who has been on one all year and really since he became the Vikings defensive coordinator. Like, that stuff has been recognized, and I think people nationally have just viewed them that way. But they have gotten to a place now where they are winning these games. They've won 9 in a row. They're 14-2. They win the turnover margin. They create explosive plays. They do all of the things that really good teams have to do to win. And so they have gone from this cute story, this enjoyable, wholesome team that celebrates better than everybody with Cam Bynum doing Parent Trap, to this like force to be reckoned with, to be honest, in the NFC. And that's been the transformation. I mean, preseason, they were projected as a 6.5 over-under win team. They've won 14 games. It is historic stuff. And so I can understand the reticence for a long time to give them the credit they deserve. But now it's just undeniable.
Yeah, like I think they're a great team, right? Like obviously they're 14-2. Kevin O'Connell, in my opinion, he's done everything to run away with Coach of the Year, especially after losing Kirk Cousins. And you talk about the defense, they lead the league in takeaways. But make no mistake about it, people out there listening, the story is Sam Darnold. What he is able to do this year. Twofold question. No, you're not supposed to do it in Missouri School of Journalism, but I'm doing it, so I hope you're paying attention. What in the world is Sam Darnold worth, and how is the feeling in the front office from Sam Darnold and about Sam Darnold changed from what you can see from the start of the year to now?
So to answer the first question, what is Sam Darnold worth? I mean, it's such a good question. I mean, you look at quarterback contracts that have been given out over the last bunch of years. I mean, Daniel Jones, who was in this building, probably doing some work 3 floors above me. He signed a 4-year, $160 million deal that I think had $80 million guaranteed. And Sam Darnold is producing now at a level that transcends what Daniel Jones did in the season 2022, where Daniel Jones came into Minnesota and beat them twice, including the wild card game. So that is a contract that I see as a benchmark. And then you look at the Derek Carr contract. I believe that was $100 million guaranteed. You look at Baker Mayfield in his contract. I mean, for me, it's hard to imagine that Sam Darnold is worth anything less than like $80 million guaranteed, which makes it a very difficult situation, obviously, for the people working in the floors above me. Now, to the Vikings, in terms of the one advantage they have, I mean, they do have the franchise tag at their disposal. That is just a clear lever that they could pull. Now, that would be an interesting move considering the relationship they have generated with this guy. But to your question of how have opinions of him changed throughout the season, I mean, you sign a guy for $10 million that they signed in Sam Darnold, and you talk to people at that time, and there was belief. He had the arm talent. He had the athleticism. He could move in the pocket. The questions really resided in, like, could he make the correct decisions time and time again? Could he progress in this offense? Would he mitigate the turnovers? And it has not been this just straight line forward path. There was a point in the middle of the season. Indianapolis, he threw 2 interceptions. Jacksonville, he threw 3. Kevin O'Connell at that time said, I am going to stick with this guy. I'm going to be aggressive with him. I believe in him genuinely, and that's going to be a winning edge. And it has been a winning edge, and they've gotten to a place where you talk to the coaches, you talk to the players, you talk to front office executives. Like, I mean, there is no question that they have a ton of respect for the job that he's done, and they don't believe it is this just creation upon skill players and coaching. Obviously, that infrastructure has allowed a lot of this to happen, but he has lifted the infrastructure recently, and that's what's been incredibly impressive even to the coaches and executives inside the building.
Yeah, I think it's clearly been the story of the year. I also think the theme of the comeback story in general has been the story of this season. But obviously Sam is leading the way in that conversation. And Alec, I know you read in my column that I had a GM even questioning paying him $10 million when the Vikings signed him. Like, $10 million for Sam Darnold?
Could you imagine?
Right? And now look how much his value has changed. And we know Minnesota wants him back. How could they not? It's just, how are they going to be able to figure this out mathematically, financially, and really figure out a plan moving forward, on top of the other element to this, which is Kevin O'Connell is waiting for a contract extension, right? So you have to figure the head coach is going to want to know who the quarterback's going to be, what the Vikings organization's plan is before he puts a pen to paper. I would think that's smart business, right, Chase? Like, Kevin's not going to sign a new deal unless he knows what's going on. It's going to be
Kevin's decision too, I would imagine.
I would hope at this point. I think he's proven that. I think most people have him as the coach of the year, as we said. Alec, what do you think this is going to be hard for them? Do you think this is going to be a problem in the offseason when we're talking about this again?
I don't think it's going to be a problem because I think you have in Kevin O'Connell, we all know this, like such a talented communicator beyond the play designing, the play calling, the culture. I mean, like in terms of his relationship with the player, to me, will be such to where this will work out in an optimal way, no matter how it works out. But there's no question, there are a lot of dynamics at play. I mean, JJ McCarthy, like you drafted him to be your guy. They structured their salary cap essentially in a way to where the vision was for him to ultimately and eventually be the guy. But one of the things I've been thinking about of late, and it comes from conversations with a lot of people, is like, are you really, after talking so much the way they did about maximizing JJ McCarthy's long-term development, are you going to move off of Sam Darnold, who just did what he's done this year, and now the standard has been set for now JJ McCarthy? All right, good luck. Like, hopefully you can lift this thing close to similar to what Sam. I mean, that is a lot.
It's a big ask. That is a lot, especially coming off injury. And look, I use the Green Bay analogy as the example. He can sit. Let him sit. Jordan Love sat for 3 years. It's working.
Really, and the way I like to frame this up is we often just talk about it like this. It's either they're going to choose Sam Darnold or they're going to choose J.J. McCarthy. But the reality is, it's you choose what paying Sam Darnold means for your entire roster building plan, or you choose what moving on from Sam Darnold does for your entire roster building plan. And so it complicates things further. But like to Chase's point, to your point, Dianna, I mean, you see that scene in the locker room. This is a lot of very aware players. And so to just move on of just building this guy up the way that they have collectively this entire year, it's a very hard thing to imagine. Now, we'll see how it all ends because I think that's going to be relevant data points too. But there is no question. And I'm coming from a Kevin O'Connell press conference where he is talking about, checks Sam made at the line of scrimmage, his operation of the offense, vision down the field in ways that I don't think they expected at the very beginning of the season. There's no question that he just really appreciates the play that he's getting right now, and knowing quarterback as well as he does, to just expect to get that. I think that's you'd be a little rosy to have that idea.
Yeah, a lot of talk about J.J. McCarthy and him and Sam were in a quote-unquote competition, at least from the outside, that's what it looked like. If they were both healthy, did Darnold actually have a chance to start, or would we be seeing the J.J. McCarthy show?
No, I always thought Sam was going to get his chance at the beginning of the season. There's no question that right before J.J.'s injury, the torn meniscus surfaced, he performed really well in a preseason game against the Raiders. Yep. He threw an interception in that game, but just the way he operated the offense, I think, proved to a lot of people inside the building that a guy who is still as young as he is at 21 years old was probably closer to ready than even they envisioned. But Sam, from the time he was signed here for that $10 million, I felt like the Vikings' plan was to think very long-term with JJ's development, whether that meant sitting him for 9 weeks, whether that meant sitting him for 4, whether it meant sitting him this entire year. I think they were open to all of that until it got to the point where JJ was making everyone in the building bang down the door to have him play. I don't think they were going to pull that lever until they needed to. So, I always thought Sam was going to get the opportunity, and then it was just a matter of what he would do with it.
What he did with it, yeah.
We saw your article that you did about Bill Cowher and Kevin O'Connell having this relationship. What's the one thing that you took away from that? Because I was a little surprised. I mean, I know Bill Cowher has great relationships with a lot of head coaches, but you don't necessarily think of the Cowher way being the way the O'Connell group does it. Well, I just gave Kevin a branch. I retract that. What was your big takeaway from Cowher and O'Connell's relationship?
Yeah, I mean, really, for me, it's the fact that Kevin O'Connell, who had been extremely successful as a coordinator in Los Angeles and who succeeded early in his time here as the head coach, winning 13 games in his first year in 2022, that he would be willing to lean on a person who had been really successful and had been in that seat. I mean, it takes, you guys know this, like, to ask questions of people in your same industry. I mean, it's almost vulnerable of like, I don't know everything. And I say it all the time, like, and Chase can speak to this way better than I could, but I have to imagine, of course, head coaches have ego because they have to stand in front of a room of 90 of the best athletes in the world and get them to listen to what they're saying. So if you don't have conviction in yourself that you think that you have something that they need to listen to, then you probably can't do that job. And so for me, I mean, just Kevin's selflessness, willingness to hear out a guy who had a similar path, became a head coach at a young age, was a position coach in the NFL, and just who would be willing to give Kevin advice in terms of what it takes to be in that seat in certain times of difficulty. Like, to me, that was just another reflective and revealing aspect of why Kevin O'Connell has been as successful as he's been.
All right, you play all these games, you play all these weeks. They're 14-2. The Vikings could be the 5 seed. They could be going on the road in the playoffs to potentially the NFC South champion Falcon or Buccaneers. Wild to think that way. But week 18, what is the biggest question in front of the whole world? We're all going to watch it. It's for the title. It's for the 1 seed. It's for all the marbles. What's the biggest question you have going into this week against Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to stop Ben Johnson's offense? I mean, I think, and Brian Flores, to me, the job that he's done, like I said it earlier, but I just hope nationally people understand where this defense has gone from 2022 and the talent they had and how rigid they were in their defensive scheme to now, 2 years later, how versatile they are, how smart they are, how quickly they adjust, how distinct their game plans are. It has been an incredible job that Brian Flores has done. And we've talked, Chase, we talked about the complexity that he pushes on quarterbacks and offenses. But Ben Johnson's offense, they scored, I believe, 31 points when these two teams played earlier this year. They just are so balanced. The offensive line is good. So stopping that team, especially coming off Sunday where the Vikings played a lot of man coverage, their cornerbacks ran a lot. It was pretty taxing on their bodies. Can they respond in a week's time against a really good offense? That's a question that I have. And then really,
I would take the over in this game if I was betting points.
Yeah, and then the other aspect is like, how is Detroit's defense and their secondary going to cover Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? These guys are playing at a level that is absurd.
Well, the Vikings defense will be very busy, and they're busy working so hard on all their celebratory dances that are all over. And they've done just such a good job at being funny, original. I think they're making all of us feel either really old, or maybe in your case, this is what you grew up with. We saw the most recent celebration of the High School Musical.
I had no idea what that was.
Of course you didn't, because you're almost 40. Alec is 19, so he knows. So Cam Bynum, what is he like? Because I find him to be so funny in these practice videos that he's doing for these celebrations. How is he getting these guys to do this ridiculous stuff?
Yeah, I mean, Cam Bynum is. I've said it for a couple of years. Like, if you were to anybody, and I'm talking person that I see at a restaurant, and I brought them into the Vikings locker room, and it was like, which guy could you just have a conversation with no matter who you were, and you would feel like, man, that guy's a great guy. That is Cam Bynum. He is just, I mean, he was what people need to know, I think, about Cam Bynum in these celebrations is in high school, he was a 5th string JV cornerback. I mean, this guy was unheralded, not recruited. And the reason that he even got to this place that he is now at, where he is able to do these celebrations on a national stage, is he would wake up at 4:30 a.m. and work with this same trainer every morning for like 2-3 years. Anthony Brown's this trainer, and it was just technique footwork. They would just work on this grass hill in California without a football, and he mastered this technique to the point at which from a cornerback perspective, he was never the strongest, never the most athletic, but it was all about technique. And so you see these dances and the choreography, it's all technique. And so this is like his public kind of showing of why he's even gotten here in the first place. But it's I think he is so reflective and illuminative of this locker room as a whole. His story is distinct unto itself. You have a guy like Cam Akers has come back from 2 Achilles tears in 3 years. You have a guy like Jihad Ward, who I believe in college, the only reason he played in college, he would take a bus an hour, and he's from Philly. Just an incredible story. You go around this entire locker room. It is not 5-star recruits. It is not first-round picks. It is unheralded players with very intriguing stories who are selfless and have come together as a we for the team type of vibe. And it feels at times, I said it earlier, like you're just around a youth baseball team where the dads get together on the weekends and grill out. That's just the reality of this team. And I have to think that the chemistry is such a key factor in why they've been as good as they've been.
We don't have the analytics on the Scoop City listeners and watchers on what their fan bases are. We just kind of assume we have a little bit of everything. I think all the people watching, listening are going to be somehow rooting for the Minnesota Vikings after getting to know a little bit more about them and just hearing the enthusiasm you have from just being around it and reminding everybody that you're right. They don't have these superstars that we see a lot of these other teams have. And we'll see them continue. You are the Cam Bynum of Scoop City for us too, by the way. So
do it all, baby.
It's funny too. It's I don't even know if I used Justin Jefferson's name, but that guy's pretty good.
I forgot that superstar. Oh yeah, he's pretty damn good.
No, but I appreciate you having me as always. It's always fun. Nice. Chase MIZ. I really, baby. It really is when you're covering a team like this. It's a blast. If you feel that it's just I'm having a ball, and you can imagine why.
We needed this, so this was awesome, Alec. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, back here on Scoop City. Chase, let's get back to our Saquon Barkley conversation. 2,000 yards.
That's insane.
He is obviously among the greats at this point, but he still has one more record to go after here to become the all-time leading rusher.
When you say it like that, it's wild.
I know. It makes me sweat.
Leading rusher. Oh.
But the Eagles, traditionally, right? Just the way they view this type of thing, not saying that they've had anyone recently go through this, but they tend to rest their guys, right? Especially knowing this roster, this team wants to go to the Super Bowl and they have the ability to do that. So they're going to have to make a call. Saquon Barkley, new to the team this year, coming off an interesting history with the New York Giants, obviously.
That's what complicates it, Diana. They're playing the Giants.
There's so much petty here. Why wouldn't the Giants just let him return? Let him just run for the record.
100-yard run.
Let him just go 100-yard, first run of the game, as our we're sorry, right? Just let him get the record and then put him on ice. Could you imagine? And have Joe Shane and John Mara come to the sideline when he does it and give him a high five when he comes off to just say congratulations.
Yeah. Saquon might punch him in the face instead of giving a high five.
You're probably right. You're probably right. But
man.
It's just the fact that it's against the Giants. Look, we saw Saquon step aside from breaking a record at another point this season. Remember, he was let's let the other guys eat. I think he's going to be okay with not breaking it. He
seems fine with it.
Human being, right? He just wants to win. So let me pose this question to you, Chase. What do? You're Philadelphia. This is for it all. Saquon wants a Super Bowl.
It is not. There's no easy answer. I think there's a right answer, and I think you have to sit him. It's one of those things where if Saquon plays, it's not just it's not just Saquon playing. You're not going to put him out there behind a backup offensive line. You're not going to put him out there without the starting receivers who know the scheme and block well. It's either all in for a half or all out. I think they need to be all. I think the health matters, because how awful would it be if he were to get, and I'm not saying this, knock on wood, but if he were to get hurt or something were to happen, they're the 2 seed. Okay, they have to play the very next week. They don't get a bye no matter what happens. They're not the 1 seed. Saquon has almost 350 carries this year, people act like 101 yards is just so easy to get. I know he's averaging 125.
It's 30-something carries,
He could have
probably.
20, 25 carries for it. I know he's a workhorse. I know probably deep down he wants it. They got bigger goals, though. In my opinion, I do think, I mean, you're so close. If it was like 50 yards, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Even 100, like that's a cutoff where it's like,
look, they took him out after he hit 2K yesterday.
That's how they
excuse
feel.
me, on Sundays,
That,
right?
like,
so
that should tell you everything you need to know about what they're going to do.
That's the philosophy of this Philadelphia Eagles team. Some coaching cycle stuff is going to heat up this week, I'm assuming here. So we know that Mike Vrabel has been the consultant for the Cleveland Browns, and his time with them has now come to an end, right? So it's about a week earlier than the end of the regular season here, which tells you what?
He gonna get a job.
He gonna get a job, right?
He gonna get a job.
We know right now that the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, the Chicago Bears are the three teams that have interim head coaches who are definitely starting to get organized to figure out what direction they want to go in here. And technically, they can all interview him if they want to do that. And he will be available for that. He legally can interview with them. So he's going to be able to get a jump ahead of some of these other coaches who are out on the market and up for a lot of these jobs.
Explain that a little more just for our viewers, because what you said is, I just want to make sure people are like, well, why did he why did he move up his expiration date? Because current coaches cannot right now interview for head coaching jobs. So therefore, because the Browns and Vrabel decided, hey, let's move it up, like you just mentioned, because I was a little bit confused, like, why does it matter? He now gets a head start on these jobs. For me, I think it's a fascinating decision. I think it's one of those like, hey, we know you're going to get a job. To me, he's looking like one of the front runners of all the jobs between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, in my opinion. There's two teams that make sense for me. I've said it from the start. I still think it's the Chicago Bears, leader of men. And I know you love that phrase, but that to me makes a lot of sense. You got to figure out who you're going to be for offensive coordinator. But the other one, and I don't know what's happening with this, I can just sort of see the vibes happening, are the New England Patriots. Like Kraft, the relationship that he has, everything that he had. They have a quarterback. They need to go out and get another offensive coordinator. I know Van Pelt hasn't liked necessarily in that building. At least I think so, based on Mayo throwing him under the bus a few times. I would imagine
you're rolling through it so quickly, but I think what you're seeing and observing about the Patriots ownership has to be seeing too, right? As much as they're committed to sticking with Gerard Mayo. And look, I admire that type of loyalty from an owner, especially for a guy that he employed as a former player, and he probably wants to give him a chance to fix all of this. But this has got to be appealing, right? Like, how do you sit there and not go, wait, a proven great coach is available and I can talk to him now? It's
such a tricky situation because you don't know if you're New England, you don't know if you're going to get Vrabel. You would only hope you would get Vrabel. So if you fire your current head coach, you then need to find another head coach, but you're not sure you're going to get Vrabel. Does that make sense? It's
it's risky. It's risky because he is going to be wanted by so many teams. Teams are going to pay a lot of money for him, right? So if you're New England, you're going, okay, I probably only want to move on from this guy for Vrabel. Unless they have some strong interest in Ben Johnson because of Drake.
Percentage chances that they move on from him.
Gerard Mayo? Mm-hmm. I don't know. They've told people privately they really want to stick with him. I just think after that last performance, it's so hard for me to believe that they're okay with it. It's just so hard. That's why I don't want to put a percentage on it because I'm trying to put myself in Robert Kraft's shoes.
Yeah. And like you've said multiple times, I don't even think they know what they're going to do.
I think this is difficult for a lot of owners right now as they're trying to go with probably what their gut fighting their own gut with feelings and thoughts and hopefully not Twitter like we know some owners do. Before we go, New Year's resolution for each other. Here's what I thought. With the New Year coming, I stink at coming up with resolutions for myself, and you seem like someone who's always trying to improve. So I thought that we would give each other something we want the other to really improve on, focus on, maybe stay disciplined with in 2025.
I've never set a resolution in my life, so I'm glad you're setting it for me.
Good.
You can go first.
I would like to impose a no screen time after the children's bedtime in your household. Shout out Hillary, right? Yeah. So I do think you've done a really good job of trying to unplug, but I bet you can be better. So I think Soon as child number 3 goes down.
Child number 3 is usually the first one.
Oh, yeah. You go 3, 2, 1. Yeah. I think you need to just go, I will be okay if I put my phone down. By the way, how funny is this coming from me? But
it's so
I'm going to put my phone down, but I think that you will be better for it if you unplug, because you'll feel recharged. And I do think our phones are rotting our brains.
Our phones are 100% rotting our brains. I love that. And I think that usually when after I put child 1 down, because I do bedtime, because my wife does mornings, I get right in bed and go to sleep. So maybe between dinner time and bedtime, I'll put the phone down. I think that's the bigger for me.
So refreshing.
Yours is quite simple. And for all you wonderful Scoop City listeners and viewers out there, you would have no idea, because we have a great team of editors and producers such as Kent Garrison and Marissa and all these guys. Look, my New Year's resolution for you is to figure out your electronical issues. And not just electronical, but your technological issues, your tech, everything is a complete mess. You literally, I was telling Marissa while your 10th time exiting this Riverside room, you remind me of my 60 to 70-year-old parents with technology. Like, that's how little you know of it.
It's not that I don't know of it.
So I implore you to learn more and to figure it out.
Look, there is a black cloud around me that I can't, it doesn't leave. And for whatever reason, anything that needs some sort of technological savviness, it just doesn't happen. I don't have it. God gave me just a few skills. And working with computers and cameras and microphones just isn't it. And for those that are listening that feel for me, you are on team, whatever. Like, it's fine. But I will say, thank goodness that we have such a patient team, because it is so irritating to work with people. I can't stand when my mom asks me to help her with her phone. Can you download Amazon?
They're not working with people. They're working with you that they feel that way about.
Correct. So I like that. I don't know how I'm going to get better at it, but I definitely
I know. Skill number 1, use your new computer.
Yeah, we're going to do that. That is, you know what, that's going to be the first thing I do in 2024 on the last day. The last day of the year, I'm going to switch out my computers and start the new year fresh. I am so looking forward to 2025. 2024 was amazing. You and I met. We had the show together. We have an incredible team, so much love, and so many great listeners that have stopped us and reached out to us. And we could not have done this launch and this show the first 6 months without you guys. So thanks so much. Happy New Year. We will see you guys next show.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.